So what's up, people? Today I am doing another 4K catch-up video, and that is going to be for a couple of July titles that I haven't got to yet, and I just want to speed things along on the channel. So I will be talking about 4 on this video altogether. And if you like the way this video is set up, I do this a few times throughout the year just because of the fact that when I get backed up releases, I have to speed things along. And you can subscribe right down here to get notified when all my videos come out. And getting right into the first title right over here, that will be Ghostbusters in 4K and Ghostbusters 2 in 4K. The Steelbook did come out in June. I have not reviewed this yet for you guys, so I just figured I'd give you a quick rundown on it. Now for the films, I love these films, and they are something that I watched over and over again as a kid. Both of them, in the matter of fact. The original Ghostbusters is a classic, and I just really like the story that they told, the humor that is in that movie, and just the overall cool that Bill Murray has in that movie. It is awesome. I always love watching the original Ghostbusters. It is a classic in my mind. The second movie isn't as good, but I don't feel like it is as bad as everybody makes it out to be. It is just where sequels typically go. It's still entertaining, and I still enjoy these characters. It's just, you know, some of the same. And as for the 4K quality here, the both of them pretty much look the same, and they both got put through a 4K scan, and they were given a 4K digital intermediate. And they look pretty good. You know, they look a lot sharper and a lot more detailed than the Blu-ray looked. And that Blu-ray that came out a few years ago was actually mastered in 4K. So that's saying something, that this is quite the bump up there as far as facial tones and close-ups and a lot of the environments in this movie. Definitely towards the end, when you're getting into more of the creatures and the creature designs, you can see a lot more detail there. There is some softness in some shots. This can be kind of inconsistent, but for the most part, it is a step up from the Blu-ray. And HDR isn't the brightest and boldest, but what I will say is whenever they use their Ghostbuster rays, they definitely pack a punch on the screen, and they pop in 4K because of the HDR. And for that, for both films, I'm going to be giving them a 7 out of 10. And as far as audio goes here, this is a Dolby Atmos mix that really steps things up for both of these films. This is a fuller and more immersive audio track for both films, and the bass response is definitely stepped up, which means you hear a lot more of the score, and that is excellent because, hey, the score here in both films is great. Height speaker work is limited, but at times when you get a lot of the chaotic fight scenes in this film, you can definitely hear height speaker work as well. And I just feel like this is a well-rounded, very good mix for an older franchise, and I will give it an 8 out of 10. So next up on the list is one that was actually requested for me to review, and that is Waterworld in 4K Ultra HD. This actually just came out this week. I actually picked up the Steelbook for it, as you can see. And let me tell you, it is quite the movie. I will say that this is actually my first time watching Waterworld. I had actually never seen it before. And I just wasn't on that train when it came out, you know. I was seeing other things, and I had heard bad buzz about this one at the time, so I skipped it. But over time, this has gained a cult following, so I figured I should check it out and review it for you guys, and I'm glad I did. This is a very enjoyable movie. And I would say that the longer cut is the better cut of Waterworld, but unfortunately, it is only available in standard high definition here, not in 4K. So if you're looking for it to be in 4K on this disc, it's not, unfortunately. But Waterworld as a film is very funny, very campy, Mad Max kind of movie. And I will say that Dennis Hopper as the villain chews up the scenery here like I just love. And yeah, it was a good time from beginning to end. And as far as the video quality here goes, I am uncertain whether this is a 4K upscale or a 4K scan that was given a 4K digital intermediate. Looked it up online, looked it everywhere to get the facts for you guys, and nobody has it at this time. But regardless, this looks great in 4K. Close-ups are given a great amount of detail, a lot of detail. You can see every pore on everyone's faces. It is very, very, very enjoyable in that way. Wider shots can seem a bit soft from time to time. This transfer can be inconsistent when it comes to softness. At times, it is razor sharp and excellent. And at other times, it does have a noticeable amount of softness. As far as grain goes here, you know, it's always going to be here. It was shot on 35mm film. But I would say that it is very contained. And when you're talking about the HDR here, I would say that it's very good for an older title. You know, a lot of the blue waters have a punch to it that is very pleasing to the eye. And when you're talking about people's skin tones and their tans, for some reason that was just very noticeable for me watching this movie for the first time. And, you know, I definitely felt like skin tones were given a bump up as far as HDR also goes. Black levels are excellent as well. Besides the softness from time to time, this is just a great transfer that I will give a 9 out of 10 to. And when you're talking about the audio, that is actually the reason to actually pick up Waterworld in 4K. Because that is the only place that you're going to get a DTS:X mix that is unbelievable. And it is just aggressive. You know, Waterworld, as I come to understand it, has always had a very punchy bass tone to it, and it has always been like a test for a lot of audiophiles for just really deep bass. And damn are they right, because the bass here is aggressive and incredible and just shakes your house. And that is awesome. And I'm not just talking about through action scenes. Even the score of this movie is really well done as far as bass response goes. So kudos to them for that one. And height speaker work also is excellent. A lot of atmosphere comes to those height speakers, and you can definitely tell that they worked on that. The field of sound is very wide and really gives you a full range of sound, and speaker separation is top notch. I would actually give this a 10 out of 10. This is reference quality material for older films that have the upgrade to DTS:X or Dolby Atmos. So next up here is going to be Hulk. This one is a movie that I have always respected a lot more than a lot of other people have. I feel like this movie is kind of underrated. I know that they have changed things in Hulk's lore when it comes to this movie, but it has some very interesting ideas and a lot of philosophy to this movie that I find fascinating. I also find Nick Nolte extremely hammy, especially at the end, where he just goes straight up wiggy, and it is truly a over the top, just the one of the craziest performances that you will ever see in a comic book movie. I can guarantee you that. But unfortunately, with the big ideas that this movie has, it has some problems with pacing and pulling off those ideas towards the end of this movie. And I would say that the conclusion is not satisfying, but it is still a movie that I go back to from time to time just for its ideas. And when you're talking about the video quality here, man, this is great. You know, you have this movie that has always looked excellent and just has such a unique visual style. There is very little grain here, and it looks pristine, and very little softness to this picture. It is razor sharp, and I could not believe it. And on top of that, the detail that goes into a lot of the nooks and crannies of the background of the offices that are in this movie. And then when you get into the science labs, there is so much more detail in those sceneries. And then as far as texturing on clothing and everything, individual strands of hair, this is really good stuff. And then when you're talking about HDR here, it steps it up a notch with the wipes that transition to white as throughout the scenes, and just all of the greens that are in this film. It blinds you on the screen, and it is expertly done. And then when you get into scenes like in the desert during the breakout scene, which I always have loved, I love that scene in this movie, you just get blinding light from the sky, and just the level of HDR here is amazing, and I would give this really reference quality 10 out of 10 for older films that are in 4K. This is up there, man. And then when you're getting into audio, it is no slouch either. It never has been. But this has actually been given a DTS-X track, and it is great. You know, you have a movie that has like very specific paneling and wipes from one scene to the other, and all of that, you can hear it subtly in your height speakers, which is excellent. A lot of the opening sequence with the beakers and a lot of the cells that are on screen, you can hear those in your height speakers also. And fight scenes have quite the bit of height speaker work. Speaker separation is excellent here, and bass response is what you would want a Hulk film to be. Great, excellent, and dynamic, and punches you in the face when it needs to. And you know what? I'll give this a 9 out of 10. This is really great stuff. And last, I'm going to talk about Pet Semitary in 4K Ultra HD. Now, this movie was one that I was kind of not looking forward to, because I was afraid that they would back away from certain plot lines from the original movie and from Stephen King's original book. I will say that they don't back away from those storylines, and this movie can be gruesome from time to time. I commend this movie for that, because I know a studio would be giving some pushback on some things that happen in the story. But unfortunately, this movie only has one surprise that is spoiled in a trailer. And that is it. After that, it is just a retread of the original and not a very necessary one. This movie feels very unnecessary, and that is unfortunate. And what you're left with is a pretty dry movie that really never finds its footing. And as far as the video quality here goes, this movie really looks damn good in 4K. You know, you have an image that has a lot of detail, specifically when they are in the forest and you can see the individual sands that are on the ground. Which is amazing. And facial features are excellent here, and you can see all the pores on all the faces. When you're getting into the HDR here, this is a very lush color palette. And the greens are kind of muted, but at the same point in time, they do pack a punch to them that the 1080p transfer doesn't have. And a lot of the more bolder and more vibrant colors that come up throughout the film definitely do stand out a lot more in this 4K presentation. And for that, I will give this a 8 out of 10. We're talking about the audio here. This was actually given a Dolby Atmos mix, and this is where it's at as far as this release, guys. This is a mix that is very wide, very just expansive, that fills up the entire room, almost throughout the entire runtime, with a score that just fully circumferences you, and I commend them for that. High speaker work is limited here, but you can hear the score through the high speakers and some ambient noises from time to time. And speaker separation is just top notch. And then when you're getting into bass response, it is also excellent here. I would give this a 9 out of 10. It is really damn good. So guys, I did this 4K catch-up video for you guys because of the fact that I do have to get into Shazam. That is on its way to me, and I want to be there for release date for you guys. And throughout this month, I will be releasing my reviews of the Iron Man 1, 2, and 3 and Thor 1 and 2 movie reviews, because those films will be coming out in 4K on August 13th. And I don't want to fall behind myself because I have to do 11 videos for those releases, which is crazy to me. But I will do it for you guys. So I will be doling those out through this month and at the beginning of August for you guys. I thank all of you for watching. You guys are awesome. I don't need to say it because you know it, and I will see all of you next time.